and welcome to the Divinely Driven Results Show. I am Elaine Smith, a Christian business strategist, and here you're going to learn and implement divine strategies for real results in your business from amazing experts in the field. And I want to ask you guys, have you ever felt like you have the fear of looking foolish, right? That you're going out there, maybe prospecting and connecting with people, and you're like, oh my heavens, what do they think of me? Or that you're not as good as other people. We may compare ourselves and have that comparinitis going on, or that no one will listen to you. All of these things are things that we experience on a regular basis in our business. And today, Pastor Elaine is going to talk to us about how to honor God by you being you, which is an incredible topic. So Pastor Elaine, thanks so much for being here today. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Elise, for allowing me to be on here. And I listened to some of the other podcasters that you've had, and it's just so amazing to hear all of the people who desperately want to help us be effective in being business owners and being solid Christians at the same time. So I consider it an honor to be here. So thank you. And I like to tell people a story from a time when I was about 8 years old, and my mom called me into the living room. So I thought I was in trouble for something or that I had a chore to do. So I walked down the hallway to the living room, and I could see beyond my mom, and my dad is sitting on the couch behind the newspaper. And my mom turned and looked down at me, and she says, "Your brother says that your dad's been doing stuff to you. Is that true?" And I was stunned, and I was afraid, because you don't lie, and I didn't know what to say. And I just said, yes. And she turned and she looked at my dad and said, "Is that true?" And he never looked up from the newspaper. And he said, "I don't know what she's talking about." And we had this kind of weird conversation, and nothing changed. And so I realized that when we're lied to or lied about, we start to believe lies about ourselves. And I went on to have a lot of dysfunction, and it can really mess you up, and it really messed me up. And so I did what any good messed up person should do. I became a licensed marriage and family therapist and an ordained pastor. And I had over a decade of personal therapy. And then I went on and had over a decade of college, and then 2 decades of performing professional therapy. And I still had clients that were getting stuck. And this was very, very frustrating for me, because I thought, with all this experience, why am I not able to help them? And I was sitting on my couch one day thinking about this, and I heard these 2 words. And if there's nothing else that you remember what I say today, I want you to remember these 2 words: identity abuse. Identity abuse. And I'm thinking, well, what is that? I've heard of sexual abuse, physical abuse, but I'd never heard of identity abuse. And what God showed me was that my identity was abused before I was even old enough to be aware I had an identity. So I lived with the lie because it felt true. So I went racing back to my clients, and I was sharing with them about identity abuse and just watching them broke free from the lies that they had been living and believing and just absorbing into their lives. And I created a program called Identity Abuse Buster. So I went from this professional codependent and to becoming somebody who was an identity abuse buster, and really learning how to help people get from the feeling to the fact. So the course covers 3 different things. The first is your identity. Your unique identity is eternally valuable to God. It's eternally valuable to God. And the second is, you're going to hear lies about that every moment of every day. The enemy wants to lie to you. That's all he does, about your identity every moment of every day. And the third is choice. You get to choose. You get to choose what you believe. You actually get to choose what you believe. And that's where I spend the majority of my time, which is helping people differentiate between, what am I choosing to believe, what I feel, or am I choosing to believe what is factual? And after that, I'm happy to say that the police did come knocking my door. I think it was like 13 years later, and I stood up for myself, and I did speak the truth, and my dad did go to jail. So now I tell people that I am Pastor Elaine, the imposter syndrome crusher. And I love what I do. So I am proof, and I want to help others to know that the truth will set them free.
Wow, how powerful is that, guys? Thank you so much for being vulnerable and telling us your amazing story, because your message comes from such a place of mess, but it's so amazing how God can do that, that He can turn our mess into our message. So I'm thrilled to have you on even more. Good. So tell me, why is it that you chose this topic? We always have our guests choose the topic of how to honor God by being me. What is that like to you?
I think what I had to learn was I was trying to always fit into somebody else's box. I was trying to fit into the box of being a therapist or being a pastor or being a good churchman or being a good parent, child. Constantly there's boxes. And one day the enemy, I had an experience where I was praying and Jesus held his hand out to me and he says, "Let's go play." And I recoiled from that thought that I could not do that. There's no way I could do that because I'm too broken and bad and dirty and on and on and on. And through the course of that time of prayer, I thought, God has forgiven me and he has better things to do with his life than look at my past. And I was thinking, yes, I'm going to lean in. And I heard the enemy tell me, "You're going to look like a fool." And I could feel that old shame kind of creep up over my body. And I could feel it kind of just weighing me down. I went, "Wait, no, 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 that's the old me, and I'm not going back. If I have to look like a fool to help other people, then I'm all in, so be it." And that way I can now go and help other people because so many other people struggle with that same thing. I'm going to look foolish. I can't do that because what are the people going to, and it's this constant thing, especially in our culture, which is a very um, fitting in type of culture. You should look better. You should better all the time. And if you're just you, then you're not good enough.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I love that you brought that up, of that fear of looking foolish or odd or silly or, fill in the blank, right? And it comes down to what people think of us. And so, what tip would you give the audience to be able to overcome that fear that's holding them back?
I think predominantly it would be, what would your friends say? If there's something in your head that you struggle with, what would your friends say? Would they agree with that? And then I asked people the other day, I said, does Jesus believe that? So we went through this era of what would Jesus do? And so I'm trying to promote, what would Jesus believe? And do you collude? This is a hard one. This is a hard one. So I want to prep you. Do you collude with the enemy's negativity? Do you collude with the enemy, or do you believe what Jesus believes? And just challenge it. Is it a fact or is it a feeling? And over again, fact or feeling, and just question yourself in that regard.
Oh man, you are speaking right to my heart. I just had an experience yesterday, actually, surprisingly enough, that I had this image in my head of how many times, and I love the word collude, by the way, that's beautiful. How many times I've colluded with the enemy in the fear and the doubt and the imposter syndrome. Even, we don't even realize we're turning to the enemy sometimes. And so I love the fact that we can kind of check in with ourselves and say, like, okay, who am I colluding with? Am I colluding with the adversary or with Christ? And that fact versus, opinion, and that feeling, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. That's
Very welcome.
great.
And another thing that I like to have people understand is that your experience is your authority.
Mm.
Your experience is your authority. Nobody can argue with what you've experienced. And to say, this is my experience, I am sharing with you my experience. And that will take you back to the fact versus feeling. This is a fact. This is my experience.
Yes. And I always tell my clients that you can never actually have imposter syndrome when you've got God on your side, right? Because how in the world could you be an imposter if God is right there partnered with you?
Right.
So beautiful. So how about this concept of I'm not as good as others? Ooh, man, comparinitis is inflamed in all of us, right? So how do you help people to get over that one?
I tell people this story, and so I'm going to tell it to Elise, and I've told this on Clubhouse, so I know that it should come across in the audio just fine, but typically people watch me do it. But I'm going to try to explain it. And I'm going to tell Elise the story about the day that God made her. So there was a day that the God that made the mountains and the oceans and the seas and flowers and animals stopped everything he was doing. and he said, I'm going to make an Elise. And he thought about you. And he took his mighty right hand, and with the forefinger of his other hand, he stirred the cells of your body around in the palm of his hand. And he thought about the color of your eyes, the color of your hair, and the shape of your toes. And he was so excited. He's like, angels, check it out. I'm making an Elise. And they're like, wow, God, you've never made anything like that before. And he says, no, Elise is different. Elise is different than anything I've ever made before. And the way she sees the world and responds to the world is going to be different than anything I've ever made before. And he thought about your favorite food and your favorite color and your favorite animal. And he says, this is good. He says, Elise, I love you. I love you so much. Everything about you matters to me. The things that bring you happiness and joy, but also the things that bring you sorrow and pain. It all matters to me. And Elise, it's my hope for you, as it is for everyone, that when I put you into the world, that you have two parents that tell you every day how much you matter to me, every day. Now, some parents will do their job really well and other parents not so much. And some parents aren't around. And then sometimes bad people do bad things to good kids. And at least the world's going to come along and say, you don't look right, and you don't sound right, and you don't live here, you don't know these people, you don't have this. And every day, thousands of messages will bombard you. And it might make you feel like you're not good enough for me. And it might get really hard for you to hear my voice and to remember how much you matter to me. But at least I want you to know that every moment of every day, I'm right by your side. No matter where you go, and no matter what you do, I will never abandon you. And at least I also want you to know that I will never be disappointed in you. Now, I might be disappointed in some things that you say, or some things that you do, or even some things that you think about, but I'll never be disappointed in who you are, because at least you are exactly the way I created you to be. And I am your biggest cheerleader. And I am looking forward to seeing you again someday and welcoming you home and giving you a great big hug. And I hope you remember that every day for the rest of your life.
All right, I'm in tears over here, guys. Like that, man, that is such a powerful, powerful story. And it's something we do need to keep with us every single day, because the world can hit us in so many ways. And if we're not careful, we can lose that identity that you were just talking about, our identity in our Heavenly Father, right? As being daughters of God, the power that we have is incredible. So thank you for that. That was beautiful.
You're very welcome. Yes. And it comes from Psalm 139, where he sees our rising and our laying down and our comings and goings in every cell, and when we were formed in our mother's womb, and on and on. And so it's extremely biblical, and we get to choose to believe it.
Wow, that's amazing. And we do get to choose to believe it or to not believe it, and then we have the consequences of such, right? And so I love that concept. Just, man, remember you are a daughter of God. Remember that he has created you. I'm going to make any lease. Like, that was just beautiful. I love it. Okay, well, I'm blabbering over here. So tell us number 3 here, that concept of when no one will listen to me, right? Those kind of things of no one cares what I have to say, or no one's going to buy from me. Talk to us about that.
Well, I had this experience because I had a lot of friends who were so excited about me going into entrepreneurialism and all the things that and they're like, oh, things are going to be great. And I'm like, hey, so why don't you watch my podcast or watch my this or that or whatever? And nobody would ever participate. And it was just eating at me. And then my family was the same way. And I'm like, why aren't you guys, and what I realized is they are not my audience. I was trying to get people to participate that really weren't desire what I had to offer. And what I learned as time went by was there are people out there who desperately are looking for what I already know. They are desperately looking for it. And I need to put my value of, I shouldn't say that, not your value, but let's go and seek those people who desperately want to hear what you have to say, and not keep knocking on the door of people who don't really want to hear what you have to say. They have no need for it, or they don't understand it. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn at first. And I just really wanted to inspire the ladies to know that there is truly somebody who is desperately seeking for what you already know. And this is the thought that carries me with that. Everybody learned everything. When you're an infant, everybody learned everything. So there's somebody who needs to learn what you have already learned, and you gift them by providing that for them.
Yeah, we talk about the scripture in Corinthians where it talks about how you are foreordained to do good works in Christ, right? Foreordained, like talk about, before the world began and God's creating Elises and that kind of thing, right? The one Elise. But that concept of, that he saw Pastor Elaine and he said that those are those exact people that she is going to help. And you can put your name in there too, is that there are people who are literally on their knees praying for you to find them. So stop knocking on the doors of those people you're not supposed to find. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So this has just been one of my all-time favorite episodes here. You've just touched our hearts in so many different ways. Wrap that up with that concept of how to honor God by being me. What is that lasting impression that you want to leave the audience about that topic today?
I want you to remember that you are unique on purpose for eternity. God is looking forward to spending eternity with you because of who he created you to be. And you honor him by being who he created you to be, not by being somebody else. And he looks forward to all eternity being with the you that he created.
Powerful words. She's amazing, ladies. So if they want to know more about what you're up to and how they can connect with you, please tell us a little bit more about that.
They can go to identityabuse.com. That is where they'll see the video of the story that I just shared with you. And if you're looking for, I have a handout that's 10 ways of being an influencer. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how to be a good, better speaker and an influencer, you can go to coach.identityabuse.com, coach.identityabuse.com.
Awesome. And we will definitely make sure we have all of those links available as well. And then if you want to join an amazing Christian women entrepreneur community, come join us here at Faithful Ladypreneurs. We give amazing tips and tricks on how to grow your business in the Lord's way. And we just want to come and love on you. And you can even advertise your business on Saturday's comment thread. So Elaine, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your incredible story, your beautiful spirit, and sharing those talents and gifts that the Lord has very much bestowed upon you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me.
Definitely. And go check out her website and come join Faithful Ladypreneurs. And we will see you guys next time on Divinely Driven Results. Bye.